Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope that you guys are doing well. If you're new, welcome to the channel. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday. We are having it's pretty nice. It's really sunny. It's really beautiful outside. It's cold, but it's been a really good day so far. So that's always a plus. I had to put leg warmers on to keep the pain from getting too bad because of the cold, but you know, they're working pretty well. So I'm happy about that. In the last video, I kind of talked about what the season of life is coming to, you know, like letting go. It's at like this time of the year, and just in our lives as well. So just the, sorry, I don't know what that was about, but I came up with this interesting title that you'll probably see in the thumbnail of this video, if I decide to keep it. But I was thinking about life and where I'm at in mine, what, you know, as far as age goes and all of the different things, right? So I know that there's like this a lot of like videos and different things on I see them on Instagram and Facebook because I don't have TikTok or anything like that. Some on YouTube as well about Gen X. So I'm a Gen X. I am on the later end of Gen X from 78. So I think Gen X goes up to like 1980. So I was, as a matter of fact, yesterday me and my husband watched these reaction videos from a son and his mom, and she's a Gen Xer. And he's like, guess Gen Z, I think around there. Maybe a little older than that. But he, you know, they were reacting to what Gen Xers did here in America as opposed to what they did in the UK at that time, how the similarities and differences and all this stuff, right? So I'm like watching it and I'm thinking, whoa, like we did do all that stuff. Like there was some amazing things that we did. And just like that idea of just going, like being out all day and, you know, being with your friends, riding your bikes, ramping your bikes over pieces of plywood. Like I didn't do I probably did put the cinder blocks under the plywood and then ramp our bikes off of that. And I had one of those like pink banana seat bikes. And we when we lived in Enchanted Hills Trailer Park, we used to put a piece of plywood on the bump because there was like the speed bumps there, and then ramp our bikes over that. And like in the video, it talks about like, you know, we don't wear helmets, we don't wear pads, it wasn't like, I'm not gonna say like, oh, our parents didn't love us and didn't care about us and all of that. It was just that we had more freedom in a lot of ways, and there was a lot of things that were different then, that I notice now. This is what how this whole thing came about. So let me backtrack just a little bit to tell you the first time I heard of this told to me specifically, and what got me on this whole train of thinking, or whatever. One day, maybe a year ago or so, I was inside my in-laws' house talking to my mother-in-law, and I said something about being old or feeling old or something, because chronic illness, sometimes you feel like you're 80 when you're 47, you know. But we were talking about that, and she said, "You're not old, you're middle-aged." And I was like, what? Like, that sounds worse than being old. So I'm like, I'm in the middle of what? You know, you're in the middle of, well, we're all in the middle of life and death, but it's kind of like you're just somewhere stuck in this, I don't know, like in some like weird space and time where so much is still the same as it was when you were in your like 30s or whatever, but then it's like things are just all of a sudden, these changes just start coming, and it's like literally like you feel like you're rolling down the hill. that over the hill when you're 40. It's funny where some of these things come from, because we think, oh, they're just joking. They're just, and they are slight. There is some sarcasm in there. There's some jokes in there and whatever, but it really is kind of like that. And sometimes it feels like you're rolling so fast and you're just grabbing onto anything to just like hold on and like try not to like allow. All right, my mic gave out, so there's gonna be like a little section that was silent, so I'm gonna try to just restart from there. So I think the last thing I said was trying not to let the time pass by so quickly. Now I don't know if I went over this part or not, but I'm gonna go ahead and just reiterate it. Maybe I did say it and it might be in the silent part, but just a week ago or something like that, my brother and my dad were talking about our ages or something. And my brother asked him how old I was. And my dad's like, about 47, I think. My brother's like, well, we're 11 years apart. He's 36. And, oh, yeah, she's 47. And he's like, oh, my gosh, she's almost 50. And it was like this laughing, you kind of laugh about it because it's kind of funny, but it's funny because, oh, haha, she's older. Like, she's old, like there's this, the jokes. But then it's also kind of eye-opening, like, where did all the time go, right? So that's been on my mind a little bit. And I was thinking about this whole idea of like the midlife crisis, right? The Gen X, how we are supposed, like, generally speaking, all of the stuff that they say about our generation, a lot of it is true. But we're all individuals, so some of us maybe don't fall under all of those different stereotypes, but there are a lot that we do. At least in my case. And from some of the people that I've talked to, they are also in that, fall under some of the Gen X stereotypes. So I was looking up midlife because it's just been on my mind. So this is what I found today. I just popped it into Google, and that AI overview comes up first. And it said, middle age is a period of life generally considered to be between the ages of 40 and 60. Though the exact range varies and can be defined differently by sources. It is a time of significant physical, psychological, and social changes, including physical signs of aging, potential career peaks or plateaus, and the caregiving of both younger and older family members. Individuals in middle age often experience increased awareness of their mortality and may reevaluate their life's direction. So I'm going to jump from that into what they say here about the midlife crisis. While a popular concept, research suggests a full-blown midlife crisis is not a universal experience, but is more likely tied to specific personality traits like neuroticism. Okay, so we've also heard about the midlife crisis. We've all seen movies. We've all seen these things where like they show these men and women trying so hard to hold on to their youth. So they're dressing younger, they're driving faster cars, some of them even like leave their spouses for like a younger person, and all of these things, right? Because somewhere inside there's a fear of getting older, because we have no idea how to be old, right? I mean, or middle aged, as my mother-in-law said, but we don't understand it. This is not something that you can learn through watching other people. Like, granted, you can get a lot of advice from older people, which I think this is what sometimes I miss the most about having my mom around, is like I used to be able to ask her all these questions, because my mom is about 20 years older than me. That's what she was. So she was 19 when she had me, and she turned 20 a few months later. So like she could tell me, this is what you're going to experience. But of course, when she was around, I did ask her some questions, but at that time I didn't think. I wasn't thinking. And when she passed away, I was 44. I think she was 64. So you're just kind of getting into that age where things are just going a little nuts, right? I mean, like, I don't know about, I know men go through their own thing. I just don't really know about it because, well, I'm not a man. But I know what I personally as a woman go through, and just because of all of their hormones and everything, most women probably go through very similar things. Maybe just we might deal with it differently and our bodies might handle it differently, but it's like sometimes it feels like you're going crazy. And maybe, it's like you see these things going on. Like, okay, so the other day I was in the bathroom and I was brushing my teeth or whatever, and I don't know what I this is gonna be funny. Sometimes I tend to make faces at myself in the mirror. I don't know why, just for fun. Just like, I don't know what it is. I just do it just because I'm weird. We'll just go with that because I don't know what the other reason there would be for me to do that. But anyway, and then I smiled or something. I like laughed at myself, I guess, after I did that. And I noticed, like, especially on this side of my face where I do have a little bit more sun damage, I don't wear sunscreen. Sunscreen? Like, seriously? Gen X. Never thought about it. Never wear it. Still hardly ever do, but I did put on some makeup the other day with sunscreen. That's the only reason I'll wear makeup now. I used to love to wear makeup. Well, that's a whole other thing. I used to wear makeup for various reasons, but let's just go on to this what I saw. So I smile, right? And all of a sudden I see these wrinkles here. They're on this side too, but not as much. So they're like, the laughing, what do you call them? The laughing wrinkles or whatever. And then all here in this part. And I was like, oh my God. And then I noticed since I've lost weight, I have wrinkles right here. You can kind of see those. No scar there. But I have wrinkles. And part of that is because I've lost weight. And how do you make this go away? How do you get it tighter? I don't know. If you know exercises, something, let me know. Because I don't know what I'm going to do there. But it's like, okay. Then I noticed that. And granted, like, I don't know what people see when they see me. But I do know, like, when I've talked to certain people about, being older, like, oh, you're not old. I'm like, dude, I'm 47. You can't be 47. You don't look that, you don't look that old. You look younger. Or they just assume I'm younger, which is great. I love that because then hopefully I look young all my life. Granted, on both sides of my family, we have most of the people in my family do not look their age. It was rare to see someone who looked their age or looked old, I guess I should say. And most of the time it's because they were getting sick. That, like something was going on in their body and took a toll on them. But for the most part, they don't. I mean, they have white hair and there's some wrinkles, but not enough to think that, like, some of my aunts and uncles are in their 70s. Like, you wouldn't know. Like, it's interesting. Like, I look at them and I'm like, y'all can't be that old. Like, there's just no way, right? So part of this whole middle age thing, right, is you have signs of aging. So it includes wrinkles, joint aches, which that's been going on for a long time. Loss of muscle tone, that kind of freaked me out. And elasticity, right? But the muscle tone freaked me out. I didn't notice it. Now, granted, I think it's twofold for me. Part of it is aging. I don't work out. See, and I'm not chronic illness now. It's a lot different. Like, I'm not working. When I was working, I was walking all the time, back and forth in the building. I would go deliver papers. So I'm like in and out all the time doing stuff, right? So now I don't do that as much. And I've noticed there's a change. And I noticed when I probably hit about, I would say noticed a lot more when I hit about 45 that things are changing. And I would get this horrible pain in my legs. And I think it's because my muscles were just like dying, or whatever happens to them. Atrophy, I think is what it is. That's the way the pain felt to me, just the way it's described. That's what I think was going on. And it's still going on. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. But the other situation for me is because I am on an injection for diabetes, which is Mounjaro. And I'm sure all of you have heard of that before. And how, I don't know how true it is for all of them. I'm assuming it's like across the board with GLP-1s. But I know that a lot of people talk more about Ozempic in that respect, where like you kind of have this gaunt face, like you just kind of like lose everything and you look like you're sick when you lose weight, and how it eats your it can cause muscle loss, and I don't know why yet. Now I kind of found something out about that at my last doctor's appointment, which might kind of give me a little bit of a clue of what's going on in my case anyway. And it might be across the board for others. I don't know. But I know my sister was talking about the Ozempic anyway, and maybe all of them, but because you can lose weight so fast, there's people who lose their curves, like people who were real curvy lose their curves completely, or whatever. So it just kind of eats at you, takes all your fat, right? And I know people who use it for weight loss specifically, at least some people personally that I've heard have done it, have used it. They use it in a way that is real quick. So maybe that's why it does that. I don't know. Now, I think that might be the muscle part, but I think the reason for it, and I talked to my doctor about the hair loss, and she said that probably because I'm not eating enough. I'm not really hungry most of the time. And then, see, I have this habit. This was way before Bonjaro. This is way before any of this. I would, I know I'm hungry, but I'm busy. I'm reading, I'm writing, I'm doing something. So I forget. It's like out of sight, out of mind. I'm not hungry anymore. And then all of a sudden, I'm feeling sick. Like, I noticed this. I don't notice it so much anymore. So I don't know if it's just kind of gotten better, or if it's because my A1C is at a 5.5, which is like non-diabetic right now. And before, I was usually in the 6.5 to 7.2 range, I think. And then it started going up. The reason why I got on Mounjaro was because it went all the way up to 9.8, and I couldn't bring it down like I had in the past. That was the highest I think I've ever been. I don't even know that I ever reached an 8 before that. Possibly once. I don't know. But I remember that because I wouldn't eat, when my sugars would drop, I'd start getting, the first sign was my nose would get really cold. And then all of a sudden I'd get sick and felt like I was going to pass out. That would have to happen for me to be able to even think I got to eat. And then what would I do? I would just go grab a hard candy and put it in my mouth and then be like, I'm good. Got the sugar. But I'm not getting any nutrients. So I was told by my doctor that I need to focus on protein, nutrition, very good nutritious protein, and anti-inflammatory foods, because a lot of the things that I struggle with in my body are inflammatory diseases. And I do deal with a lot of inflammation. There's times that it's ridiculous. And she told me that part of the reason why she thinks that I'm having a lot of stomach issues, even with the Mounjaro, because you can, okay, that's not unheard of. But I shouldn't have them like this anymore, I don't think. But she said that more than likely what's wrong with me, I'm not eating enough. So my stomach's freaking out, because not only does it slow down your metabolism, and that's why you lose the weight, but I'm thinking it's kind of like that same thing when you're diabetic, or just in general, when you just don't eat, and it's not because you're doing a fast, it's not because you're, there's something very specific for it, but my body's thinking she's starving us, or come on, so it's all of this craziness going on in my gut. And so yeah, that is a problem. And she said that's probably why I'm losing my hair. And the interesting thing is, the other day, I don't know what day it was, I think it was on Instagram or somewhere, I saw this doctor talking about it, but he was talking about hair loss. Someone sent a question about it, and it was the same kind of thing. You're not getting enough nutrients. That's probably the problem. And it's probably my problem, because I don't want to eat. How do you eat when you're on a GLP-1? And the funny thing is, I kept thinking, well, if I was such a big eater before, this was in my thoughts, right? So my highest weight from the time that I started this weight loss journey, officially, I was up 245. Prior to that, I think one time in my old doctor's notes, I was at 250. So that's probably the highest I ever was. But I know when I moved, it was 6 years ago, I was at least 245. There might have been 250 at one point in time that I never was paying attention, but I know for sure it was at least that, because that's where I kind of started this journey. Off and on then, because I wasn't like fully focused, but that's a lot of weight for a 4'11" girl. I mean, it's a lot of weight for a lot of people, but for me, it took a toll on my body. And I figured, excuse me, I must be eating like a pig. I must be eating, and eating, and that's why I gained all this weight. But the reality of it is, it wasn't. I never ate all that much. I snacked, and I didn't even snack a lot. It was that I snacked on all the bad foods, and probably because things were already going on in my body as far as like illnesses, and that's probably what, sped up this process of gaining weight. But I had this vision of myself in my mind of like, well, this is why. So I've struggled. I'm still struggling to realize that I have lost about 70 pounds up right now. I haven't checked the inches and all that, but I'm sure there's a big difference in there as well. But 70 pounds, that's like a whole human. I lost a human. Like, how was I carrying that? I think of now, could I even lift 70 pounds? Like, I doubt it. But, it's so interesting how as we age and we get to this midlife part of our lives, everything we've done up until this point will show up. How did we take care of ourselves? Did we take care of ourselves? Did we allow stress to take over our lives? Are we a worrier? Are we a people pleaser? Are we, an enabler, codependent? Are we, all these, like, those are all like our mental state, right? But our mental state affects our physical state. And so because of that, either we're going to binge eat and then we're going to starve ourselves, or we're going to eat like piggies and eat all the things that we see, or we're going to eat bad foods because those are comfort foods. It's like, I want chocolate, or I want this. And like, I'm not even a big sweet eater. I'm thinking like, I'd say in the last year, because I used to snack at night. I still did that not too long ago, but I wouldn't eat I eat like one meal a day and have coffee and water during the day. And that's it. And so I'd have like dinner. But I would snack at night sometimes, not a whole lot, but I was still snacking. And it wasn't like I was snacking on chips. Really, that was probably my worst snack. Chips and sometimes candy, though. Every once in a while, when I was in the mood for candy, I would eat it. But really, I wasn't a big snacker anymore. And I can't seem to get that through my head. Like, that's not, like, I wasn't that person. Like, and because I see myself and I'm like, I still see that same 245-pound person. Like, it's hard to see me. Like, I can see myself right now in the camera. And I've seen some of my old videos and I can see the difference there. But when I envision myself, I still see her. And I am just struggling with the idea that, hey, you did this. You have lost this amount of weight, and I still have some ways to go. I still have I'd say another 40 pounds at least to lose, where I'll be closer or at the weight for my height, which I'm right now where I'm at. I don't feel too bad. I feel a lot better as far as like the heaviness on my body, but still at 175, 74, that's still quite a bit for my height. My height, that should be like supposedly 99 to 119. I don't know if I could go that low, but we'll see where I get to. But, even if I was like, 130, I'd be happy. 140, I'd still be happy. But like, I noticed that and I see my clothes now and I'm like, I can't fit into that. That's too small. But yet I'm wearing them and they're comfortable, and some of them are even still a little big. So this is like, so I guess talking about, the Gen X midlife crisis part for me is as a Gen Xer, part of the things that I guess of my stereotypical idea of my generation, is that whole we don't care, and sometimes I take that to the point where I don't care about myself. I'll give all my, like, everything I am for other people, but I just tend to not care for myself. And we just kind of push through everything. We'll do it anyway. It doesn't matter if you're hurting or whatever, you're still going to push it and push and push. You're going to push yourself so hard sometimes that you end up sick and you still think, that's okay. That's what I'm supposed to do, right? And then midlife, all of the stuff that's coming up, right? All of these wrinkles and pains and muscle, like losing muscle tone. Sometimes, like, I can't even walk correctly because I have a bone spur. I have more than one, but the one that's hurting me now is in my left foot. I have one in my right knee. So that makes sleeping insane. But walking, sometimes just getting up out of the car to walk to the store and like into the store, it's like I walk and I feel I could see it like in my mind. If I saw somebody walking like that, I'd be like, they can't, something's wrong, they need a cane. Like, that's how I feel. And it hurts so bad, and I'm just trying to push through it anyway. And the crisis, it's a crisis of identity. It's kind of like I say to myself, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be 48 in a few months in February. And that's just closer and closer to 50. And what have I done? What do I have to show for it? What is my life? What is my life like? What was my life like before? What do I need to hold on to from my youth? And excuse me. And what am I losing? What did I lose? What am I? Oh, cough, sneeze, yawn. Boy, great afternoon. But it's that idea, like, what is really happening? What's going on with me? And I'm gonna get old. I'm gonna get wrinkly, and all my hair is gonna turn white. And I was telling my mother-in-law, because when I first started getting white hairs, because I have way more now, you can't really, I don't know if you can see them in this, but I have a lot up in here. And anyway, I told her, was I going to dye my hair? Because once you start doing that, it seems like people I know that have done that will just keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that. And then when you're really, like, older, in your 80s, 90s, and you can't do it anymore, or you don't have anybody to do it for you, a lot of people's hair turns like this blue-green color because of all the dye, especially when you dye it black, right? I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I didn't want to go down that, like, I have to dye my hair all the time. If I dye it, it has to be for fun, or like just because I want to, but not because I think I have to. So I'm forced or trained myself to look at my white hair as wisdom highlights. These are my wisdom highlights, my wisdom glitter, whatever. But when my hair started thinning and I started noticing all of this, and it's like in the back, like up in here in the crown, and I'm just like, oh my god, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know what to do. That's why I want to cut my hair, just to kind of give it a, like, something different. I don't know. And then I kept thinking, okay, the wrinkles, what am I going to look at my wrinkles as? Are these wisdom wrinkles? Like, it's really getting to that point where I'm like, I don't want to freak out, I don't want to have a panic attack over getting older, but it's crazy. And then I'm like the oldest in my family. I'm the oldest kid. I'm the oldest grandkid on my mom's side. And like on my dad's side, there's two older than me who are only like a year and a half older. Like, it's not like they're way older than me. And I like look around, I'm like, what do? How do I do this? How do I learn how to be happy, be joyful, accepting of being middle aged? That's such an awful word to me. I do not know why that is an awful word for me. Awful phrase or whatever. And it's just, I'm looking at this definition, if there's anything else I want to share off of this, but it talks about our health and the psychological development, just kind of like what we're seeing in maturity and all of that stuff. So I'm just wondering, I mean, do you guys have any wisdom, any advice, any, like, when you, if you are my age, close to my age, older, like, how are you processing this whole thing? Do you even think about it? Is it, and I don't know, maybe because I have more time to think about it because I'm disabled and I have a little more time on my hands, and because I like to write and I like to ask the why questions, and I want to like get all this information and whatever. So this is, to me, this is fun stuff, but also kind of scary because I'm getting older and I'm wondering, like, oh my goodness, what's 48 going to be like? What's 49 going to be like? Am I going to be, what do people view me as? Family and everything. Because I remember, like, growing up, I had this one, my aunt, who was my grandpa's sister. She was a tia, right? She's my tia. She was the one that, like, I don't, we all went to for things, like, she was like advice. I don't know, whatever. She was just like the tia. And I'm like, am I gonna leave a legacy like that? And a lot of it, I think I've lost some of that because of my own anxieties, because of depression, because of chronic illness. I've lost some of that, and because of the just situations that the way they are. And I'm thinking, I need to gain that back, or I need to figure out a way to restore these things, right? Because I want those connections. So, are you a Gen Xer? Are you a boomer? Millennial? Where you guys land? My sisters, my brother, they're all millennials. Like my sisters, I guess, like, supposedly there's like a little section in there that's like Zennials, like the last of the Gen Xers and the first of the millennials, because we saw the transition in the technologies, and like we were young enough to like see the get on, use the internet. Like, I mean, I was of the like Yahoo groups and Yahoo chats and like MySpace generation. That was like when I was in college. Like, I got my first cell phone at like 25, like flip phones, or like the little tiny Nokia phones, and a pager. I had a pager before that. Like, like I think of that, I'm like, well, we saw a lot of different things. Like we went from like I didn't personally buy 8 tracks and record, 45s or any kind of albums, but it was like the cassette girl and then CDs. So it's like weird to have everything like streaming off your phone, and like it's so crazy. Like just all the different things. And I think that's where that whole like crisis comes from. It's like, what am I doing? And it's not like I want to make all these changes and all this stuff. I do want to heal. I do want to bring healing, and I do want to feel better so I could do more. But I don't know what my life's going to be like. What am I supposed to be like at 47, 48, 49, 50? Like, how am I supposed to live my life? And I know there's not really a set way. I know there's not like these rules. I mean, people like to put rules, and oh, if you're this, you better dress your age and all that stuff, which I have my own thoughts on that, which maybe one of these days I'll talk about. I like comfort now. I was like totally into that. I had to be dressy-ish, like a little dressed up all the time. But I do think there's a reason for that, and that's something I will talk about in another video, because I think that had a lot to do with the fact that I was way overweight, and there was certain clothes that seem to fit better. And if I wore like sweatshirts and sweats, it made me look bigger, made me look frumpy, made me look, and like I always thought, like, you're not pretty enough to dress this way. The pretty girls can dress that way because they're pretty and they're thin and they're this and they're that. And so I had this really different mindset because of that, because of all of the stuff going on in my life and all the decisions I had made and all of this stuff, right? I've accepted the fact that yes, there are things that I was a victim of, but I'm not a victim. There's things that that have happened to me that were out of my control, but there's a lot that I did to my own self, and I can start changing that stuff, right? So that's where I'm at now. That's what my midlife crisis is all about. It's just learning how to be who I really am, which I will talk about another fun thing that I'm working on in my journal. And I'm writing this all down in my notebook next to me because I'm going to forget if I don't, because I forgot a few other ones that I thought were so cool when I was thinking about them. But anyway, I'm like at 30 minutes on this one, and I probably have another 5 or so minutes in the one that went silent. But just let me know, what do you think? What do you think of this season of life, this midlife? And if you are older, because I do watch a few ladies that are like wonderful. I love watching them, who are in their probably anywhere from like the 50s all the way to their 90s. So they have a different perspective than I do, even at 2 or 3 years older than me. They saw some different things than I did. They're seeing some different things in their life than I even know. And because I think another thing that makes me feel odd about all this, we don't have children. So that sense of like when you're a mom, your dad, you have a different sense of responsibility. You have a different sense of like things that you have to do and all of that stuff. I don't deal with that, and that makes life a little bit different. And it's kind of scary in a lot of ways too, because it's kind of like, well, am I doing this right? And am I mature enough? Or am I whatever? It's just, I worry too much, and I look outside of myself for these answers that I know are inside me, and they come from the Lord. So this was just, all my thoughts on Gen X, midlife, and just like, if you were to give your younger self advice, what would you tell them? If, if you have advice, you're older, and you have advice for a 47-year-old, going to be 48 in a few months, is to just being yourself. How did you learn to just accept who you were? Did you ever struggle with that? And if you did, how did you change? I know these are a lot of questions, and maybe if I kind of remember to do this, or when I'm editing, I'll write these down and put them in the community post, and maybe you guys can put some comments there as well. But for now, I'm going to go put a soup on because it's a cold day. I'm going to go check my laundry, and I will be back probably soon with another video. And I will see you guys in the next one. God bless you. Bye.